more is the stability. Since all these other oxides, when compared to iron, they are having lesser delta G value, so they are more stable than that of iron oxide. So, since other oxides are more stable than that of iron oxide, you can conclude that all the metals, that is magnesium, aluminum, chromium, zinc, all these metals can be used as reducing agents. But in this, we are not using magnesium, chromium or zinc in order to extract iron because they are costlier than that of iron. Since these metals are costlier than that of iron, you can see that it is not economical. So that is why metals like magnesium, chromium, zinc are not used as reducing agents because they are costlier than iron. So it is not economical. But aluminium can be used as a reducing agent because aluminium here, it is abundantly available in the Earth's crust and it is used to extract iron. Wherever we are using aluminium as a reducing agent, whichever process in which we are using aluminium as the reducing agent, that particular process is called as aluminothermit process. Aluminothermit process is a process in which aluminium is used as a reducing agent to extract the metal. So now, if you see the lines of the graphs are intersected here. So for our convenience, I have taken only the formation of carbon monoxide from carbon, formation of carbon dioxide from carbon, formation of iron oxide, that is ferrous oxide, and formation of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide. The lines which are useful for us now. Here, all these lines are intersecting at a temperature. All these lines are intersecting at a temperature. So that particular temperature is 800 degrees centigrade or 1073 Kelvin. At 800 degrees centigrade, all these lines are intersecting. Now, from this, what we are going to know? Here, the yellow line or the orange line, what you are seeing with respect to iron oxide, is below the line of formation of carbon monoxide. You can see that the line of iron oxide, ferrous oxide, is below the line of carbon monoxide. That means to say that iron oxide is stable here, whereas carbon monoxide is unstable because till or up to 800 degrees centigrade, ferrous oxide is having less delta G value, whereas up below 800, you can see that carbon monoxide is having more delta G value. As we know that lesser the delta G value, more is the stability. Lesser the delta G value, more is the stability. Here, iron oxide is more stable than carbon monoxide below 800 degrees centigrade. So that is why below 800 degrees centigrade or 1073 Kelvin, you can see that carbon cannot be used as reducing agent. But here the line of the green line what you can see on the screen, it is the formation of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide. That means to say that carbon dioxide formed from carbon monoxide is more stable because the green line is below the yellow line. That is to say that carbon dioxide formed from carbon monoxide is more stable than that of ferrous oxide. So that is why below 800 degrees centigrade, carbon monoxide is used as reducing agent. That is to say that when ferrous oxide is reacting with carbon monoxide, iron is released and carbon dioxide is also released here. So below 800 degrees centigrade, that is to say that 1073 Kelvin, carbon monoxide will be the best reducing agent. But if you see the next part, that is to say that above 800 degrees centigrade or above 1073 Kelvin, here the gray line what you are seeing, the gray line is with respect to formation of carbon monoxide. This is coming down, and the line of ferrous oxide is going up. That is to say that you can see here carbon monoxide is more stable than that of ferrous oxide. Carbon monoxide is more stable than that of ferrous oxide because above 800 degrees centigrade, carbon monoxide is having less delta G value, and above 800 degrees centigrade, ferrous oxide is having less delta G value, more delta G value. So lesser the delta G value, more is the stability. So that is why above 800 degrees centigrade, that is to say that 1073 Kelvin, carbon monoxide is more stable than that of ferrous oxide. Due to which above 800 degrees centigrade or 1073 Kelvin, coke or carbon will be the best reducing agent for ferrous oxide. That is to say that FeO plus C gives rise to Fe plus CO. That is, carbon is used as the best reducing agent above 800 degrees centigrade or 1073 Kelvin. So once again, I'll repeat this thing. Here in the Illingham diagram, you can clearly see that the line of, so here yellow line and the green line, which are formation of ferrous oxide FeO and ferric oxide Fe2O3. These two are above all the other metal oxide formations. That is, metal oxide formation of magnesium, or we can say that magnesium oxide formation, aluminum oxide formation, chromium oxide formation, zinc oxide formation. All these are below the lines of formation of iron oxides. That is to say that all these oxides, magnesium oxide, aluminum oxide, chromium oxide, zinc oxide, are having less delta G value than that of iron oxides. Lesser the delta G value, more is the stability. So in that case, these metals, that is magnesium, aluminum, chromium and zinc, can be used as reducing agents for reducing iron oxides, that is ferrous oxide or ferric oxide. But we are not able to use magnesium or chromium or zinc in order to produce iron because these metals are costlier than that of iron. Since these metals are costlier than that of iron, this process cannot be economical. So that is why we will not use magnesium or chromium or zinc. But we are using aluminum as a reducing agent to reduce ferrous oxide because aluminum is abundantly available and bit cheaper also. So here, when aluminum is used as a reducing agent, that particular process is called as aluminothermic process. Aluminothermic process is a process in which aluminum is used as a reducing agent to produce metals. Here, ferrous oxide reacts with aluminum metal to produce iron. Now, let us see the other part of this topic, where the lines, so use of carbon and carbon monoxide as the reducing agents for iron. This is the thing we are going to learn here. Why we have to use carbon and carbon monoxide? As we know that the source of carbon is abundantly available on Earth. At the same time, from carbon, we are having the process of producing carbon monoxide also. So, since these are very much cheaper than that of iron, the use of carbon or carbon monoxide as the reducing agents is the best economical way of production of iron. So, why we can use a carbon or carbon monoxide as a reducing agent? We are learning that by using Illingham diagram here. So here, now we are speaking about ferrous oxide. So this yellow line, which is shown on the screen, it is the line of formation of ferrous oxide. So here, these are intersecting at a point of 800 degrees centigrade or approximately 1073 Kelvin. At this temperature, what is happening? So that is why, since it is intersecting here, we have to have two conditions, that is below 800 degrees centigrade and above 800 degrees centigrade. Below 800 degrees centigrade, this green line is below yellow line. That is to say that ferrous oxide is the yellow line, green line is the carbon dioxide. That is to say that carbon dioxide formed from carbon monoxide is more stable than that of ferrous oxide. That is to say that whichever substance is having lesser delta G value, that is going to be more stable. So that is why carbon dioxide formed from carbon monoxide is more stable than that of iron oxide. So that is why below 800 degrees centigrade, we can see that carbon monoxide is used as reducing agent. So ferrous oxide can be reduced with carbon monoxide to produce iron. But above 800 degrees centigrade, you can see that this gray line is coming down, whereas yellow line is going up. That is to say that that is carbon monoxide is becoming more stable than that of ferrous oxide above 800 degrees centigrade. So that is why carbon is used as a reducing agent for ferrous oxide to produce iron. So above 800 degrees centigrade, coke will be used as reducing agent. Below 800 degrees centigrade, we are using carbon monoxide as the reducing agent for ferrous oxide. Now, you can see that here, extraction process, already we had started this one, in which we had seen about concentrated of the ore, in which from the concentrated ore we are going for calcination or roasting to oxidize the metal ore to metal oxide here. This metal oxide is undergoing reduction, in which we said that the chemical reduction, in which we are having hydrometallurgy and pyrometallurgy. Or we can go for electrolytic reduction to produce the crude metal. Till now, that is in the Illingham diagrams, we had seen how we are going to select the reducing agent for a particular metal oxide. Now, let us see pyrometallurgy. Pyrometallurgy. So, pyrometallurgy is a process of extraction of crude metal by using a particular reducing agent. So if you are using a particular reducing agent to a particular metal oxide, then that process is called as pyrometallurgy. In this, particularly we are going to see that this complete process is going in the condition of heat energy. That is to say that by heating the ores, we are going to go for this particular extraction of metals. That is why this pyrometallurgy is mainly based upon heat energy, heating process. So pyrometallurgy is the extraction and purification of metals by process involving in the application of the heat. The most important operations are calcination, roasting, smelting, and refining. So particularly with respect to pyrometallurgy, the word smelting will be coming. Pyrometallurgy and smelting are completely together. So smelting is the process used in blast furnaces to reduce oxides of iron, tin, lead, etc. So into their metals by using a suitable reducing agent. So smelting is a process in which by using a suitable reducing agent, the oxides of the metals are converted into metals. So this is, once again, I had given you clear definition of smelting. Smelting is metal from its ore by process involving heating and melting. A simple way of defining melting, that is smelting, that is extraction of the metal from its ore by a process involving heating and melting. And we can say that reduction also. Reduction is also taking place. So in this pyrometallurgy, the first one is a reduction by carbon. So many metal oxides like lead oxide, zinc oxide, iron oxides, tin oxide, copper oxides are reduced by using coke or coal. So reduction of the oxide with carbon at high temperature is known as smelting in this particular thing. And always whatever impurities we are having, chemical impurities we are having in the ore, they are removed by using a flux. So flux is added during the smelting process, which reduces the melting point of the impurity to form as easily fusible substance called as slag, and can be separated easily because of its lower density. When it is having lower density, it generally floats on the crude metal. Slag will be floating on the crude metal. And the selection of the flux depends upon type of impurity or nature of impurity present in it. So if the impurity is an acidic impurity, we are going to use a basic flux. If the impurity is a basic impurity, we are going to use acidic flux. Then smelting is usually carried out in a blast furnace or reverberatory furnace. So the structure what you can see on the screen is blast furnace. So this is a pear-shaped equipment made of fire bricks. You can see that in order to maintain the heat energy, blast of air, hot air is sent inside here. Blast of hot air is sent here. At the bottom, we are going to get a hot metal, and on top of it, molten slag. That is, since the slag is having less density than that of the molten metal, it will be floating on the molten metal. So it can be removed separately. So hot metal will be, or molten metal will be separated here. And in some cases, we are also using reverberatory furnaces in order to go for a reduction by carbon or smelting by carbon. So the first case of pyrometallurgy, that is reduction by carbon. So in this particular chapter, next to this one, we are going to learn about extraction of iron from hematite ore by using this process, that is reduction by carbon. And we are also seeing extraction of copper, in which we are going to use the carbon as one of the reducing agents. We are going to learn them separately. Now in pyrometallurgy, let us see the second one. Second one is a reduction by aluminium. So as I am discussing earlier, aluminium is used as a reducing agent. In that, such process is called as aluminothermic process or aluminothermic reduction. Aluminium acts as a reducing agent due to its high electropositive nature. So here the oxides of iron, chromium, manganese are generally reduced by this method. Why aluminium used as a reducing agent? For that, once again I am remembering you the Illingham diagram what we had learned here. So here, since always aluminium is at the bottom and aluminium is abundantly available, aluminium is a cheap metal. Because of all these reasons, and since aluminium oxide is having least delta G value when compared to the other oxides, always aluminium can be used as a reducing agent, because less the delta G value, more is the stability. Since aluminium oxide is more stable, aluminium metal can reduce other oxides very easily. So that is why in general aluminium is used as reducing agent abundantly. So this particular process in which aluminium is used as a reducing agent, it is called as Goldsmith aluminothermic process. Goldsmith aluminothermic process or Goldsmith thermic process. So in this Goldsmith thermic process, oxides of iron are reduced by using aluminium to produce iron. Or chromium oxides are also easily used in order to see that we are extracting chromium metal. So here, in what way this aluminothermic process is going on, let us see diagrammatically. So this thing is called as aluminothermic equipment or thermit. In this, we are going to take the mixture of aluminum oxide, that is aluminum powder. Mixture of aluminum powder with metal oxide and fuel powders are also added here. When it is burnt with high temperature, automatically what happens is at high temperature, aluminum gets reacted with the oxides of iron or chromium, such that iron metal or chromium metal is produced. Those can be coming out. So here, this is the opening where you can see that the iron metal which is produced here will be coming out in the form of liquid. So especially this particular process is employed in welding the iron rails. So iron rails where trains will be going on, there if there is a breakage in the iron rail, automatically those will be closed by using aluminothermic process. So this is the rail, broken rail, in which we are using aluminothermic process to fill them. So on the screen you can see a simple small video where you can see that how the aluminothermic process is working. So this is the crucible or aluminothermic, where oxide of iron, aluminium powder and the fuel are mixed and burnt, such that as they are burning, we can see that the reaction takes place. Ferrous oxide or ferric oxide will be reacting with aluminium to produce iron in molten state. That iron in molten state will be coming out like this. So in that way, pure form of iron can be collected here. This particular process is called as Goldsmith aluminothermic process, which is used especially in welding the iron rails. This is the second process in pyrometallurgy. Next one, in pyrometallurgy, we are going to see the other these things, that is reduction by heat in air. This is also called as auto reduction process. Auto reduction process, we are not going to use a particular reducing agent here. Such process is called as auto reduction process. This auto reduction process is generally used in the extraction of crude metals of mercury, copper and lead. This is due to the oxides of mercury, copper and lead are little bit unstable when compared to other metals. So that is why on heating, or one of the product will be acting as a reducing agent to produce the metals. For example, if you can see the extraction of mercury, when mercuric sulfide is burnt in the presence of oxygen, automatically what happens is it is undergoing auto reduction, where mercury is produced and sulfur is going away in the form of sulfur dioxide in the form of gas. The same way in the extraction of copper sulfide, when it is oxidized in the presence of oxygen, that is roasting, it produces cuprous oxide. Cuprous oxide in turn reacts with the cuprous sulfide to produce copper. Here this is called as auto reduction. That is to say that the reactant itself is acting as the reducing agent here. So auto reduction is a process in which we are not going to use any particular reducing agent. Other than this, in pyrometallurgy, we are having reduction by carbon monoxide, which is employed for iron. We are going to learn this one separately, that is extraction of iron. Reduction by water gas. You know that mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas is called as water gas, which is used in the extraction of nickel from nickel oxide. Amalgamation process, which is used in order to extract noble metals like gold, silver and platinum. Gold, silver and platinum can form amalgams easily with mercury. By using that process, we can see that we are going to produce those metals very easily. So in pyrometallurgy, we had seen First, we had seen carbon as the reducing agent. Second, we had seen aluminum as the reducing agent. Third, we had seen about auto reduction process. And then we had explained about carbon monoxide used as a reducing agent, amalgamation, and water gas. So here in pyrometallurgy, we are going to learn separately extraction of iron, copper, and zinc separately after the completion of this particular extraction of crude metals. In the extraction of crude metals, we are having next one, that is electrolytic reduction. So you know that electrolysis is a process in which oxidation and reduction are involved. Oxidation means losing of electrons, reduction means gaining of electrons. So in an electrolytic process, the definition of electrolysis is it is the decomposition of a substance by using electricity. By using electricity, we can decompose a substance. During this decomposition process, we can extract metals. So for our convenience, I'm giving you the example of extraction of sodium metal from molten sodium chloride. Molten sodium chloride means a liquid form of sodium chloride is called as molten sodium chloride. In order to produce a sodium metal, I am taking this molten sodium chloride in a container. And so two electrodes, that is two inert electrodes are being placed into it. And as we are sending electricity through anode and cathode, the first thing is ionization takes place. That is to say that sodium converts into sodium ion, sodium chloride converts into sodium ions and chloride ions. Sodium ions are having positive charge, so they move towards cathode. Sodium ions move towards cathode. And chloride ions are having negative charge, they move towards anode. At the cathode, always reduction takes place. That is, gaining of electrons takes place. So sodium ions gain electrons to produce sodium metal. At the anode, chloride ions will be undergoing oxidation, removal of electrons. So by removing electron, chlorine atoms combine together to form chlorine gas. So always at cathode, we have to remember that at a cathode, reduction takes place, and at anode, oxidation takes place. So this is a electrolytic process. Electrolytic process or electrolytic reduction is generally used in the extraction of metals, active metals like sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, aluminum, etc. Because they are active metals, they will be extracted by using electrometallurgy or electrolytic reduction process. So aluminum is obtained by the electrolysis of electrolyte, which consists of mixture of alumina. Alumina means Al2O3, Na3AlF6 cryolite, calcium chloride CaF2 are taken and subjected to electrolysis to produce aluminum. This particular process is called as Hall-Héroult process, which we are going to learn separately in the extraction of aluminum. In the extraction of aluminum, we are going to learn it. So this is electrolytic reduction. Then hydrometallurgy, that is reduction by precipitation. So already when we are learning about the process called as the leaching, we had seen this process. Again, once again, we shall discuss. So hydrometallurgy is a process in which more electropositive metal displaces less electropositive metal from salt solution. So first, the concentrated ore is dissolved in a strong reagent and remove the insoluble precipitates. So this particular thing, that is concentrated ore, is dissolved in a strong reagent and remove insoluble precipitate. This is nothing but leaching. This is nothing but leaching. After leaching process, we are going to use a particular metal by using an electropositive metal. So now the metal is precipitated by addition of more electropositive metal. So for example, we are taking silver sulfide. This is leached by using sodium cyanide. such that sodium silver complex is cyanide complex is produced. This sodium silver cyanide complex is now reacted with the zinc metal to produce silver. So here, whatever zinc we are taking, it is seeing that it is combining, it is replacing the silver, such that silver is going to be precipitated. So in hydrometallurgical process, by using leaching process, we are going to produce a substance which is in the form of solution. That solution is treated with a suitable reducing agent like zinc, which is more electropositive to produce or to precipitate the metals. So this particular process where silver sulfide is converted into silver, this is called as cementation. In olden days, this is used to fill up the cavities in your teeth. Cavities in your teeth are being used or filled up by using this process called as cementation. Even this hydrometallurgical process can be used in extraction of gold. We had seen these particular reactions in a leaching process where the native, so since gold is a unreactive metal, it is available in the form of native form, that is being leached in the presence of sodium cyanide dilute solution and oxygen, such that sodium gold cyanide complex is produced. This sodium gold cyanide complex is then treated with a more electropositive metal like zinc, such that gold is precipitated. So this is hydrometallurgy. So till here we had seen pyrometallurgy, hydrometallurgy, and electrometallurgy. These are the three processes where extraction of metals are taking place. So in the isolation of metals, first we had seen about ores and minerals. Then we had seen about concentration of the ores. In concentration of the ores, we had seen about hydraulic washing, magnetic separation, froth flotation process, and leaching. Then we had gone for extraction of metals. In extraction of metals, we had seen about calcination and roasting, through which we are going to convert the ores into oxides. Oxide must be converted into reduction. For that, how to select a reducing agent we had seen by using Illingham diagrams. Then we had seen about the different types of reduction processes in metallurgy, that is pyrometallurgy, hydrometallurgy, and electrometallurgy. And now we shall go for refining of metals. So in the general procedure, ores are subjected to concentration. From concentration, we are going for extraction. So in extraction, we are going to get crude metal. Then we are going to refine them. That is purification of that metal to produce pure metals. In this, we have completed ore, concentration, extraction. Now let us proceed with the refining of metals. So refining of metals is nothing but purification of metals. So the crude metals will be having many impurities like silicon, phosphorus, slag impurities, oxide impurities, and other metals also can be as the impurities. So since we are having many impurities in them, they are called as a crude metal. Crude metal is the metal which is having impurities. So those impurities can be metallic impurities, non-metallic impurities, compound impurities, or any other things. So in this particular step, that is refining of metals, we are going to learn how we are going to refine the metals. Removing of all these impurities is called as refining. First one is liquation. The first process is liquation. So in order to see that crude metal is subjected to liquation, the metal and the impurities must be having a difference in the melting points. If there is a difference in the melting points of metal and the impurity, then only this process is being employed. So this is used for the purification of metals which are having low melting point. Low melting point metals are being purified by this process called as liquation, like mercury, tin, lead. So mercury, tin, lead, such metals are being purified by this process called as liquation. Mercury, tin, lead. Let us see how it is going on. So here, this is a furnace. This is a furnace where fire will be there to see that heat energy is being produced. Charge means here crude metal is going to be the charge. And this is a slope. So this slope earth will be having slight grooves. The slope earth will be having slight grooves. Now, as the charge is coming onto the slope earth, the crude metal, that is the metal and the impurities present, that is crude metal, will be heated such that since metal is having less melting point, it gets liquefied and will be slowly moving into this container. The metal, since it is having less melting point, that will be liquefied and being gathered or collected into this container. Whereas the impurities will be left over in the grooves. The impurities, that is, since the impurities are, melting point of the impurities is more, those will not be converted into liquid. So those impurities which are in solid form will be collected here, and liquid metal will be collected into this container. Let us see a small video on this one. Liquefaction process. So in this liquefaction process, how we are going to purify the metals. So we have to remember more this about metals which are going to be purified by using liquefaction. Liquefaction is only employed when there is a difference in the melting points of impurity and the metal. Metal must be having low melting point, whereas impurity must be having, metal will be having less melting point, and impurities are having more melting point, due to which when the charge is coming onto the hot earth slope, on which we can see that the metal is going to be liquefied and it is collected, pure metal is going to be collected, whereas the impurities are left over on that earth, because impurities are not converted into liquid. Only we can see that metal is being liquefied here. This particular process is called as liquefaction. Let us see the second one. That is refining of crude metal by distillation process. So distillation process is employed when there is a difference in the boiling points of metals and the impurities. So this is employed when the boiling points of metals like zinc and mercury are having less boiling point metals like zinc and mercury. So metals which are having less boiling points will be used, will be purified by using distillation process. Distillation process is used when the metal is having less boiling point than that of the impurities. Metal must be having less boiling point and the impurities must be having more boiling point. So here you can see the diagrammatic representation of distillation. So this is the container where we are going to take molten crude metal. This will be heated strongly in such a way that the boiling point is maintained exactly little bit more than that of the metal, such that as it is heated, the metal converts into vapors. The metal gets converted into vapors. Those are sent through this condenser, As they are coming through the condenser, automatically they will be liquefied and they will be collected in this container. So in order to cool, we are using water here. That is, in the condenser will be circulating water such that it is cooling the vapors what are produced in this container. So the metal which is having less boiling point will be converted into vapors. Those will be passing through this pipe into the container. As these vapors are passing through this pipe, that is condenser, we can see that vapors are being cooled to produce the liquid. This is the structure of distillation process in metals. So here is the hearth. This is the container in which crude metal is being heated. The vapors of metal will be passing through this. This is the condenser, that is where it is being cooled, and through this we can see that a pure form of the metal is being coming out. This particular process is called as distillation. Distillation is employed when there is a difference in the boiling points of metal and impurities. Metal must be having less boiling point, whereas impurity must be having more boiling point. So refining of crude metals, next method, that is oxidation process. This is called as a selective oxidation method, used for refining those metals in which the impurities have greater tendency to get oxidized. So if the impurities can be oxidized easily, then this method is used. And after the formation of impurity, oxides of impurity, those will be skimmed off or removed. So here in this oxidation process of refining the crude metals, we are having methods like poling and besmerization. Poling and besmerization. So poling is a method in which the crude metal, the molten crude metal is taken in a large container, and that crude metal is being mixed up with green logs of bamboo. The green logs of bamboo are used to mix up the molten crude metal. Here scum means it is a crude metal which is added into the container. As we are mixing the hot molten crude metal with the green logs of bamboo, the green part of bamboo will be having hydrocarbons. Those hydrocarbons are helpful in reducing the oxides, that is impurities to oxides, such that crude metal converts into pure metal. So as these bamboo are mixed, they are mixing the molten metal, that is molten crude metal. The hydrocarbons present in the green part of bamboo, those are acting as the oxidizing agents for impurities, which will be removing the impurities in the form of volatile forms, leaving out the pure metal. And this is a besmerization process. In this besmerization process also we can see that impurities are being oxidized, which will be generally volatile. Those oxides will be removed in the form of waste gases. And we are going to learn about besmerization clearly when we are studying about extraction of copper. Extraction of copper. So this is refining of crude metals by oxidation process. Then refining of crude metals by electro-refining process. Means by using electrolysis, we can see that we are refining the crude metals. That is, we are purifying the crude metals. For this, the metals like aluminum, copper, silver, zinc, tin, lead, chromium, nickel are being purified. So in general, in an electro-refining process, that is to say that electrolysis will be having an anode and a cathode. Always the metal rod which is having impurities will be taken as anode, and the purest form of metal will be taken as cathode. Anode is the impure metal and the cathode is the pure metal rod. So at the cathode always you can see that reduction takes place, and at anode oxidation is taking place, due to which we can see that anode is having the impurities, that is anode is releasing the impurities. All those impurities are being collected as anode mud. All the impurities are collected at the bottom as anode mud. Whereas the thickness of the pure metal, that is cathode, will be going on increasing because their reduction is taking place. Whatever the metal ions produced at the anode will be going towards cathode and deposit on the cathode to see that thickness of the cathode, that is thickness of the pure metal, will be going on increasing. So in this electro refining process, we can see that 99.9% of the metal can be extracted. 99.9% of metal can be extracted in this method. Let us see the video here. So electro refining process. In this is the impure metal rod which is used as anode. This is the pure metal rod which is used as the cathode. As we are sending the electricity, we can see that at anode, oxidation is taking place, and at a cathode, we can see that reduction is taking place. Anode is impure metal, whereas cathode is pure metal. And in the container, we are going to take the electrolyte, that is the salt solution of the metal will be taking. So since we are purifying the copper metal here, we are taking anode as impure copper, cathode as pure copper, and copper sulfate solution is taken as the electrolyte. At the anode, due to oxidation, you can see that copper ions are produced. They are going into the solution, and these copper ions are moving towards cathode, and at the cathode you can see that reduction is taking place. Thickness of cathode is increasing and thickness of anode is decreasing. And whatever impurities are present, they will be collected at the bottom as anode mud. So this particular process is called as electrolytic refining. So electrolytic refining is process in which we are going to get 99.9% of pure metal. Now let us see the fifth one, that is zone refining. Zone refining. So this is the most important method here, because in this method we are going to get finite purity. Finite purity means 99.999% purity we are going to get in this method. Especially this is used for purification of semiconductors. So this method is based on the principle that an impure metal on solidification will deposit the crystals of pure metal, and the impurities will be remain behind in the molten part of metal. So here this method is used in order to purify elements like silicon and germanium. So in this, what happens? This is a metal rod which is having impurities. So this is the heater. This green part is the heater. This can be moved from left to right and right to left. So when it is moved, you can see that the hot part will be having impurities which can be attracted. The hot part will be easily attracting the impurities, due to which the impurities present with the metal will be collected into the hot part from the cool part. So as the heater is being moved, you can see that impurities are collected to one particular part, whereas the metal is going to be purified. So this is another diagrammatic representation of this one. So this is the impure form. So as we are going to see that we are moving the heating coil, we can see that impurities are being collected to the one particular end of the metal rod. One particular end of the metal rod. So let us see the video form also. Here this is germanium rod. This red one is the heating coil. We are taking an impure germanium rod. To see that no other reactions are taking place, we are taking the inert gas, that is to say that to create inert atmosphere. Now, as the heating coil is being moved in one particular direction, all the impurities are being collected into that part, such that all the impurities can be removed separately. So this particular process is called as zone refining. It is called as zone refining because the metal rod is divided into different zones first. First zone, second zone, third zone, fourth zone, fifth zone, like that. Such that as the metal coil is moving in one zone, automatically you can see that the impurities will be concentrated into that particular zone only. Like that, that zone, last zone will be removed such that we are going to get 99.99% of pure metal. This particular process is called as zone refining. So next one is Van Arkel process. This is used to see that if the metal is having small impurities with small quantity, so metal in very pure form of small quantities. So it is a chemical process where you can see that the impure metal is treated with iodine vapors at 573 Kelvin, such that it is going to form the iodide. Then iodide is strongly heated to see that a pure form of the metal is being produced. So titanium and zirconium are being purified by this method called as the Van Arkel method. So titanium, which is having impurities, is treated with iodine vapors at 573 Kelvin, such that impurities cannot react with iodine, but titanium will be reacting with iodine to produce titanium tetraiodide. Titanium tetraiodide is heated at 1700 Kelvin to produce a pure form of titanium, such that iodine is getting vaporized. The same process can be used for purification of zirconium metal also. Crude zirconium metal is treated with iodine vapors at 573 Kelvin to produce zirconium tetraiodide. Later it is heated to 1700 Kelvin to see that iodine vapors are evaporated or removed, leaving out a pure form of zirconium. This is called as Van Arkel process. Very important 2 marks question for your PUC. Then Mons process. This is used for purification of nickel metal by using carbon monoxide gas. So when a nickel is strongly heated at 330 to 350 Kelvin, nickel, when it is heated with a carbon monoxide gas, it is producing nickel tetracarbonyl complex. So this nickel tetracarbonyl complex is again heated at 450 to 470 Kelvin, such that carbon monoxide is removed in the form of vapors, leaving out pure form of nickel. So crude nickel, which is having impurities, is heated with a carbon monoxide gas at 330 to 350 Kelvin of temperature, such that only nickel is forming the nickel tetracarbonyl complex, removing the impurities. Now, nickel tetracarbonyl complex is heated at 450 Kelvin to 470 Kelvin to get a pure form of nickel. So this is also an important question for 2 marks. Mons process for the purification of nickel metal. And finally, we are having in refining of crude metals, that is chromatography. This chromatography method is used when we want to get small amounts of metal. So column chromatography is used. We had learned about this one in first PUC also. So chromatography is also one of the methods to see that metals are being refined. So this is refining of metals. let us continue the metallurgy process by learning about the extraction of metals like iron, copper, zinc, aluminum, etc. in the next class.